Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your dual host tonight, but at least one from each coast, Buddy Sotelo and Evan Ginsberg. So we find ourselves kind of in a little bit of a lull when you consider all the other big news that happens every week, supposedly in pro wrestling. This week isn't as intense, and thank God nobody died this week to make my, I don't have to give a eulogy on anyone. In fact, I was at I saw this cremation service, and I was thinking maybe they'd be a good sponsor for our show, you know, because we talk about death so much. Maybe we should,
Yeah. We
you
could get
know.
like a mortuary to sponsor the show.
I know
And we could,
exactly, and like a funeral home and like
yeah,
embalming fluid,
that's right. Yeah.
embalmers are us, and urns and caskets. We could just get into the whole, undertaker business, and what the hell?
Uh,
People are
speaking of
always
which,
dying.
speaking of which, I don't know why, but your picture, your face is very faded. It's
Oh,
not
fuzzy. It's
fuzzy.
just it's the lighting. It's not quite dark enough for the lights in the house to totally affect it. There's still some light coming in because it's kind of
But
like,
when you lean forward, it's much better. When
yeah,
you
it's
lean,
it's at my it's the focus, the autofocus on the camera. It was kind of caught in between focus because the lighting is sort of
I just
in
assumed
between.
I just assumed it was an omen that you were next.
That I'm next.
That's
That I'm gonna
that's
just
right.
fade out of
You were
focus,
fading there.
and that, yeah, I'll just dissipate. I should be so lucky, by the way, of all the things I've done to hurt myself. If I'm lucky enough to just dissolve into the atmosphere, I will consider that a huge success, as opposed to all the other ways that I've nearly killed myself over the years.
Like in a
So,
sci-fi movie, you just
oh
suddenly
yeah, exactly. No,
fade
I
away.
or it reminds me of Duck Dodgers. Oh, you see, there you go.
Yeah.
With when he was Duck Dodger of the 24th and half century, and he pointed his disintegrator gun at Marvin the Martian. He said, "And when my disintegrator gun disintegrates, boy, does it disintegrate!" And as he presses the button, the gun disintegrates. He goes, "What do you know? It disintegrated."
Yeah. Yeah.
So there,
Oh man.
that's my joke of the day. And I'm sorry, I don't know. It's weird. The camera just has this. I think when the lights completely go out outside and it's no longer, it's like completely dark, should be okay. I'll turn off my TV. It might be giving a little bit of side image on me there to make me a little bit out of focus. But now it seemed okay. Anyway, so here we are. Another week passes by. We are so thoroughly into 2025. It's the first couple of months, 2025, you're just like, well, we're not really in it yet. And then, by the time you really like feel like what 2025 has to offer, it's almost over.
Well, it's October this week. Before you blink, it'll be Thanksgiving and Christmas, and next thing you know, it's another year, and we're a year older. And
Not that much wiser.
well, I don't know, man. I've been occasionally, I try to avoid it, but every once in a while something will just annoy me and I'll make a political post. And for example, I said that if you sincerely believe that everybody who voted differently than you is some kind of subhuman, I said it's ridiculous. I said I know very honorable people that vote Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, whatever. Not everybody votes the same. If some just because somebody votes differently, it doesn't mean they endorse every single thing some of the scumbag politicians on all sides do and say. In New York today, Mayor Adams dropped out of the race. I'm no fan of his, and I'm a Democrat, and he's a Democrat. I'm not a big fan of his. So, um, I have friends who are honorable. I was going back and I was doing clerical work yesterday, 2 in the morning, and I'm online with one of my Republican friends who is doing an overnight shift because it pays time and a half, and he's trying to support his family. Guy was up 2 in the morning, and we were just interacting online, and it's I don't judge people on how they vote. If somebody's saying something racist, xenophobic, homophobic, that's a different thing. But people vote for different reasons,
Yeah,
and
but it is tough when you know that people are empowering the side that's making, your life miserable in a lot of ways. And when I mean it does come to a matter of enabling that sort of thing to happen. And but then again, the way to really deal with it is to not only vote yourself, which is important, but work with people so that they can to get them to change their mind or to support something different. You have to convince them of that, and yelling at them and telling them how stupid they are isn't always the way to get them to see your side.
Bill Maher on Friday, his final segment, he did the hypocrisy and the insanity of both the extreme right and extreme left. I mean, if the extreme left is spinning that Hamas are victims, there's something very wrong. If the extreme left is spinning that looting, arson, tearing down a mom and pop business because you have quote unquote, outrage or whatnot over something, that's bullshit. This is somebody's business that they pumped countless hours of money into. You can't spin arson and robbery as
No, and I
legitimate.
don't I don't think I mean that is really not a matter of being left or right. I mean that's a matter
But
of
that's the
somebody.
extreme left. That's the extreme left who, you know, um,
I mean that's no more embodiment of the really what the extreme left believes as the extreme right believes in mass assassination of people. You
yeah, but
know,
the extreme right, they love their guns and they fight for their guns and they fight for their gun rights, and that's an issue too. But my point is, I have friends who are Republican gun owners who are honest, hardworking, family people, and they don't agree with everything Trump does and says. And these are friends, and you can't. I have guys come on my page who just, if they vote for Trump, they're dirtbags. This is their theory on life, and it's just not true. And some are, some aren't. Just like some Democrats, are crazy too. Crazy. So watch Bill Maher's last segment from Friday night, Friday, September 26th, and he says it more poignantly than I do. But both sides, the extremists, are out of their minds. Out of their minds.
and yet the only thing that the politicians are listening to these days are the extreme right and extreme left because that's where the action's going. And I think now people are getting afraid that if they disagree with them, there might be dire consequences, including getting shot or getting jailed or it's that if you don't go on either extreme side. You just try to stand in the middle. A lot of people are getting caught in the crossfire. And I mean, we've seen a bunch of school shootings go on and church shootings go on. And if you ask me, I think the real big deal is gun control, but that's, and something I've personally espoused for decades is ammo control because you're never going to get the guns off the streets, but eventually ammo is going to run out, right? So, if a gun doesn't have ammo, it's not nearly as deadly. You
Chris
can't
Rock
hit
said
someone
you
with it.
should charge $5,000 a bullet. There'll be less shootings.
People would certainly be very selective over who they shot. And you say, well,
Exactly.
people can make their own bullets, but who's going to want to do a drive-by if it took you 40, it took you, 2 days to put together all those bullets? You're not just going to shoot them wildly in the air. And so, but I'm not a gun owner. I mean, I have kids and I have never believed. I love gun design. I love gun physics. I know a lot about guns, but I also know a lot about sharks. I don't want to have a shark as a pet in my
I
bathtub.
think you should have a shark in your pool in your palatial estate.
Yes, exactly. No,
Yeah.
sharks are best off, in the ocean. And guns are best off, in the hands of trained professionals, of which I'm not. And I never augured to want to be a professional gun toter, and I'm probably never going to own one. I mean, I don't think that anything negatively of people who own guns, but like I have a client of mine who is a major antique gun owner, and he's also a legendary hunter. And he has written for shotgun collector magazines and hunting magazines. And I asked him about, like, how much ammo do you believe in ammo control? And he said, "Look at this, Russ. Here, I went a hunting last season, and he showed me a box of shells, and he showed that like 4 shells were missing, or 6 shells were missing. He said, I shot 4 ducks, I missed twice, and I was furious at myself for missing twice. He's like, if you need more than 6 shells to go hunting, you're a crap ass hunter, and you need to go back to the hunting range and find out how to shoot your gun accurately."
And my question would be, what kind of sociopath would derive joy from shooting a beautiful duck?
Well, he eats it. I'll give him credit. Once he's shot it, he does actually eat it,
I
and
mean,
so
out of all the things you could do on any given day, go to a movie, go to a concert, go to the theater, go to a museum, go on a picnic, whatever. Uh, I'm gonna go out today and shoot a duck. To me, that's a sociopath. I don't get it. I'm never gonna get it. I don't approve of it.
some people, and I'm sure a few of our listeners, are probably hunters, and that's something they feel that they get something out of.
Yeah,
The only
their
time,
balls tingle when they shoot some innocent animal from a mile away. That's not a sport. A sport would be UFC. Go fight the tiger. Go fight the lion. Hand in hand combat. You see how you
well,
fare then.
people would argue it's the same thing as fishing,
I,
the other
I have
way.
no desire to go fishing and put a hook in a fish's mouth.
Yeah, and then pull it out. But I guess, in my thought, if you eat it, if you're actually going hunting and you actually eat what you kill, you know what? You're at least doing something about it. You're not just shooting stuff randomly. The only time I ever went hunting for duck in my whole life, got up at 4 in the morning, drove out to the middle of California. We got on a boat. We didn't see a single duck, and then our outboard motor got stuck in the reeds and broke off. And so we were stranded out in the middle of these duck blinds with a motorboat that didn't work. We had to take those giant reeds, and we had to like do the old the canals in Venice. I had to actually use those poles to like push ourselves back to the docks.
I like
And
the video where like the guy shoots the elephant and the elephant falls on him and crushes him. I like those.
yeah, now that's the other thing, is that game hunting is a lot different. When people shoot stuff not because they're going to eat it, but because they just want to put the trophy on their wall. That's a different
You
story.
see, when you live with animals, I have 2 cats. You have a dog. When you live with animals, you know they have feelings. They have feelings. It's I don't get it.
Well, it's good news is that you live in New York City. The desire for you to actually go hunting, is not something that you really need to address. It's not like you need it for food or anything like that. You would only go hunting for sport, and there's no sport in your opinion. And I agree with you that if you want to actually have sport on something, get in the ring with another human, or go to the
I'd like to
basketball
see
court.
Brock Lesnar fight some giant animal because he's like a giant animal. He's 330 pounds, all muscle. Let him go fight one of these animals instead of shooting them and bragging about, oh, I got this,
Well, you
whatever.
remember I mean, wrestling bears was a big deal back in the, 20s and 30s and
Wrestling
1940s
needs
even.
more bears, yeah.
Yeah, there needs to be a wrestling bear somewhere, and like a boxing a kangaroo and such and so forth.
Alligators. You need more alligators in wrestling.
You remember there was that one like roller, there was like that roller games thing where you would jump over. It was like roller derby, but they wanted to make it extreme. So it was like in the late 80s, and they had a deal where you would be jumping over a crocodile. They had like a figure eight thing with a jump, and you would jump over a
I don't
crocodile.
remember this at all.
Oh gosh, it was ridiculous. It was in that like waning era when everyone was crazy about American Gladiators, and so they had a
I'd like to see that, but with like corporate executives. You have
absolutely
Like Nick Khan jumping over an alligator, or Triple H, or Stephanie. Just
Jeff Bezos,
Jeff
on one of the
Bezos.
getting
I would
hit with
watch that.
those
Yeah,
with those sticks, those big sticks with the like the giant Q-tip sticks,
yeah.
on the pedestal. Yeah, that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, have like all these corporate vultures like fighting like giant ferocious animals. I would watch that.
Yeah, okay.
I'd
Or
root for the
maybe even just
animals.
robots. Maybe even just robots, designed to maim them. I have my background with battle bots, so I know that there's always a desire for that. People always do love their battling robots, and always will. Although, unfortunately, battle bots are sort of on. It's kind of dialed back from where it was. It's not on a regular TV station anymore. It's sort of just in the background. But I think that robot fighting will always be a niche, and people will always follow it because it's just kind of an offshoot of what we watch with professional wrestling. I mean, people always want to see who is better, the big giant bulked up guy or the super fast flippy fluke, agile guy, which guy wins the clash of styles. That's what I loved about the original, uh, original UWF and the Ultimate Fighting stuff when Ultimate Fighting first came out. What was great is you just had no one was an Ultimate Fighter. Now people train, the jujitsu style to be an Ultimate Fighter. But before then, in the early '90s, when Ultimate Fighting came in, you really had, like guys who were specialists in karate, kickboxers, sumo
My
wrestlers.
friend Manny Yarborough was a black sumo.
Oh,
He
okay.
was in UFC 3, I think it was. Yeah, early, yeah.
I remember the first one. There was a sumo in the first one. And he got kicked in the mouth like immediately and knocked out, because he didn't know how to defend himself against the guy who knew what he was doing in karate. But they had people from all these different disciplines, fighting, and they didn't have one specific person that was just an ultimate fighter type thing. Although it turned out to be Hoist Gracie, who, basically won so much with jujitsu that jujitsu sort of took over and became the de facto fighting art for ultimate fighting, and so now nobody even thinks about saying, oh, well, I'm a Muay Thai boxer and I'm going to do ultimate fighting. So like, no, you're going to learn how to be an ultimate fighter and then go into it, which is interesting. I wasn't sure that ultimate fighting itself would become its own art, and people would just study that and not bother to learn other disciplines before they got into the ultimate fighting. So,
I'm a very casual MMA fan. I'm still a boxing fan.
well,
But
and Dana White makes it really hard to be a fan of ultimate fighting. I mean, he is like Vince McMahon minus 10 as far as what personality goes. You know, I mean, I guess he's less of a sexual crazy guy, but as far as his thought of the value of human life as opposed to like what it takes for him to earn money off of them is just as reprehensible for Dana White as it is for
well,
Vince McMahon.
the slap fest, or whatever you call it, where
Perfect.
geniuses, they sit and get slapped at concussion velocity for four figures or whatnot. It's ridiculous. I mean, how desperate do people have to be for money? You have some big, powerful person slapping you with all their might, and you just sit there and take it. Oh my God, it's like,
If only we had a way of measuring how much CTE was being developed during each one of those shots, and they could like show like a temperature, like a thermometer type thing, like each time they get hit, it's like, oh wow, and you got 2 doses of CTE right there.
yeah.
That'll ruin his brain for all time.
Well,
And like they can like even graph like now he forgot how to tie his shoes. Now he got hit so hard he forgets the last 2 letters of the alphabet.
that's right. He remembers
You-
24 of the 26. It's
yeah,
not so
it's just you
bad.
have like this like chart that's like going through and just saying, oh no, now his high school years have all been forgotten. Like will he get to the point where he can't use utensils?
But I mean, this is like the movie Idiocracy, only it's real. Like
I always thought that was a comedy until 2016, and now I realize it's a documentary.
yeah. They're gonna have UFC fights on the lawn of the White House. Can you imagine?
Why not? You got to have, you have all that space for the new grand ballroom, so you might as well,
No, seriously, they're talking about it. I'm not
why
joking.
not? Why not? I mean, it's because lynchings will be what's in vogue by the time we're done with the Trump era. On the lawn, they'll be having public lynchings.
Right.
That's what we'll all sit and watch. Pay-per-view lynchings, which is something, by the way, I had predicted in the 80s when I was in college, writing for my college newspaper. I said, by the time I'm all said and done, they will be having pay-per-view executions. So, yes. So, anyway, let's try and talk some wrestling. Well, first of all, talk about the concert that you went to. That was a fun thing that you attended.
Yeah, and I'll tie it into wrestling. So Thursday night, it's called the Queen's Tour, and it's Patti LaBelle, Shaka Khan, Stephanie Mills, and Gladys Knight. Now, Stephanie Mills is 68, Shaka Khan's 72, and Gladys Knight and Patti LaBelle are 81. So I've been seeing all of them 40, 50 years. I've been seeing them since the 70s and 80s. Now, okay, you go to the show, and it's, I want to say this delicately. Gladys Knight 2025 is not Gladys Knight 1975. And she forgets some of the words, and she's moving very, stiffly, awkwardly. And part of you is like, okay, I'm glad to be here to honor this all-time great and see her most likely for the last time. And part of you feels bad that they even need to be on stage at this point. Frankie Valli at 90 is lip syncing every concert. Lip syncing. Gladys Knight at least is singing as best as she can. Now, Patti LaBelle is probably 80% of what she was back in the day.
Still pretty good.
But she's still great. And Patti LaBelle at 80% is still better than 95% of the people out there. She's pacing herself, the bands. She's giving the band a lot of,
Solos.
time.
Yeah.
And she does a costume change, and the backup singers are doing numbers, and audience guys are coming up. She knows how to pace herself at age 81, but the voice is still there.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And Shaka Khan and Stephanie Mills didn't lose a note. Still unbelievably great.
Wow.
So when the smoke cleared, I was happy I was there. I enjoyed it. It was exciting. These are icons, especially I'm an R&B guy.
And it wasn't incredibly expensive either.
It was 115, and for whatever reason, we got to our section and it was cordoned off, and then they gave us an even better seat. So I can't complain. You're seeing 4 icons for $115, and so let me tie it into wrestling, since people at this point must be going, these guys haven't mentioned wrestling. So you got John Cena, who might be 75, 80% of what he was 10, 20 years ago. He's on his farewell tour, and the matches vary in quality, but some people just want to see again or see for the first time this all-time great as far as, fame
Yeah,
and
he's a legend. He's a
yeah, oh yeah,
legend.
yeah, yeah. I always liked Cena. I think he got a bad rap. I saw Cena headline the Garden against Bray Wyatt. It was great. I saw Cena headline the Garden against Roman Reigns. It was great. And I saw Cena headline the Garden against Dolph Ziggler, and it wasn't so great. It was
But
okay.
I worked with Cena when he was the prototype,
There
so
you
I
go.
can I
There
can
you
say I
go.
really, and even then you knew he had something special and that he was gonna emerge even from a very talented UPW roster in LA, that he was gonna be something that succeeded. When the rest of the guys that he was working with, although he was working with some great guys down there, including Samoa Joe,
Yeah.
Stevie Richards, and Christopher Daniels. But if you add all their careers up, you still don't equal what John Cena has been able to do, especially because he's now, oops, sorry, he's now the voice of everything, you know, from Honda to other any other commercial you can think of. He's anything that Morgan Freeman isn't being
Yeah, yeah,
tapped
yeah.
for.
But my point is, if you saw Cena today and this comeback tour, this final tour, or whatever you call it, you know, there have only been one or two really good matches. Most of them have been just okay. And but if people feel they're getting their money's worth, that they want to see him, they want to experience it, they want to be there, then it's okay. But he's wrestling. He's not lip syncing. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing to the best of his ability. And I've seen in interviews he's acknowledged that I can't do what I used to do, and that's fine. Cena at 50 isn't going to be Cena at 30. So it's up to the consumer whether or not they want to support this.
But do
And
you think that Cena is really going to be done forever? That they
no,
aren't
no,
gonna
I
that
think
they're
I
gonna
think
trot him out?
The Saudis for WrestleMania 43 will pay him some enormous amount of money, and it'll be the shortest retirement in history, like Terry Funk. He'll come back 17 times. Cena likes his money. This guy doesn't turn down a paycheck. He's done some crap movies, some crap TV. He'll put his
The
name on
Rock
any commercial.
set the Rock set the stage for him, and he just is like, okay, well, if the Rock can do it, I can do the same thing. Turn it up a notch. Although he doesn't have the absolute stage presence that the Rock has. I think the Rock really, and if the Rock succeeds with this, Smash Machine, or what's the new movie that he's got coming out where he's the UFC fighter, the
I
Smashing
forgot.
Machine or something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, when he comes out with that, and he could be in a whole different strata. I mean, people might actually take him seriously, like the way that, like, when Clint Eastwood went from being, Dirty Harry to like stuff like The Unforgiven, you know, where he found a new role, a way to define himself, where he isn't just a raw action hero, but he's much more of a thinking, brooding type person, and can play these mature roles that doesn't just involve him punching other guys out and shooting. You know, I mean, now Clint Eastwood's just directing, but I think that the Rock could be seen in another way. I'm not sure how people are going to see Cena after he's done with wrestling, and whether they're going to want to keep casting him. Is he going to get, like, dad roles? Is he going to get,
He's done some comedies. He's also 10 years younger than The Rock. The Rock is smart. Let me try to be an actor instead of just an action hero. And Batista, after he lost all the weight and everything, and he looks like a regular guy walking down the street. That again, when I saw him in The Last Showgirl with Pam Anderson of all people, I never imagined either of them were actors, but they are. that's a great, great indie film, and it's very
Well,
moving.
he's also very good in Knives Out.
I haven't seen it, but
You should see Knives Out.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
I think that's
eventually.
one you'd
Eventually, I
enjoy.
see everything, but there's so much content now. It's
It
just
is true. I was thinking the other day though, because again, it's not wrestling related, but I was watching the new Alien Earth series. Now that
how is it?
it's 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 fantastic. But while I was watching it, it really is like its own, like you're watching movie level special effects on TV now. And each episode really kind of feels like a movie. Same with like the show Wednesday, which came out, which has all these Tim Burton feelings to it, and Danny Elfman soundtrack to it. And you start saying to yourself, who needs the movies when you can just stay home and watch something that gives you that feel like you're watching a movie, but it's a TV show.
Well, it's still special to be in a theater, with the giant screen and the sound. And I saw Hamilton in the movie theater last week, and it was, it's better than watching it in your living room.
To some extent, but I mean, like, a thing like, especially when it's a TV show, they can make so many more episodes to it, and so they can create a much deeper level of story and pace it easier than when you're sitting in a theater for like 3 hours watching something that goes on just too long. You
Yeah,
know,
Game
it's
of Thrones, was magnificent. I mean, the last season wasn't quite as good, but you see something like that, you're going to get deeper into the characters because you have 70 hours instead of 3 hours. Exactly.
right. Yes. And sitting through something straight through 3 hours long is not easy. I mean, even with the comfortable chairs and all that stuff. I mean, when I've seen some things recently, I've really said to myself, a lot of times there's a lot of things in movies that I figure you could really cut out and the movie would still be the same, but shorter and probably
And
easier.
then God forbid if you have to take a leak, you're 2 hours in and you go, there's another hour going. It's like, should I dash out to the bathroom and miss a chunk of this, or should I try to stick it out? You know?
Sometimes I look forward to the bathroom trip just so that I can wake myself up and not fall asleep, for the remaining part of the movie, like that Batman movie that came out a few years ago.
I
It
didn't
was
see
like
it.
3 hours long, and I was like, "There's no reason for it to be 3 hours long. Just no one ever told the director to cut anything." So, I think there's this whole idea that more is more, that you can't just do less is more. You have to, and we see it with WWE shows and TNA shows and a lot of indie shows where they just figure people will be happier if you just give them more stuff. In other words, versus giving you something that just is really high quality and maybe less of it, but it's each match has much better storytelling, much better, in-ring performances, and doesn't involve a run-in at the end with 20 or 30 people.
So this weekend you had a TNA pay-per-view, you had an MLW special, and you had an NXT pay-per-view or premium live event or whatnot. So you had three big cards in one weekend, and I asked my friend who watched all of them, how many great matches between the three cards would you say there were? And he said three. Three total.
Two from NXT and one from TNA, by the way. None from AEW and none from the WWE.
Okay, but my point is, so if let's say you tacked on AEW and WWE TV over the weekend, you had 40 or 50 matches this weekend, and count them, three what were memorable, three were excellent. I don't get it. I would go to the NWA cards in the 80s in Philly, Baltimore, wherever, occasionally New York and New Jersey, and on one card, you would have three great matches, if not more. Same with Ring of Honor, 2008 era, Nigel McGuinness, Brian Danielson, Kevin Steen, Austin Aries, all these
And my
Japanese.
friend Mark Smith.
Yeah, exactly. I saw Mark Smith live. He
By
was
the way,
great.
his now deceased birthday was this week.
Yeah.
And, I'll say, I've taken many times out on the show to give tribute to Mark, but I never stopped missing him. I've never not missed Mark Smith. And, unfortunately, as time moves on, and he just sort of fades into the background, unfortunately, like your friend Tiger Khan, because neither one of them, was sold millions of dollars worth of stuff and action figures and videotapes and all that other stuff. Unfortunately, our dear friends, they were good, but they weren't good enough to become immortal, except, for people
Well,
that care
what
about them.
people don't understand about the business, it's right time, right place, right networking, whatever the case may be. Tiger was around in the 90s, and the little guys weren't as prevalent. And, he naturally he was 180, 190. He was not a big guy. The steroids bulked him up, but it also helped kill him. So it's it is what it is. He was good enough to wrestle around the world. He was good enough to get that WWE tryout. He was, good enough to go down to WCW to the power plant. Bison Smith worked Japan. Bison Smith worked Ring of
I
Honor.
mean, he made his living as a wrestler. And there's very few of my friends that have been able to do that.
Yeah. So it's not that either of them were not good enough. It's that it didn't fall into place like some other guys. And in some cases, it's the nepotism, the cronyism. If you're related to a wrestler in WWE, the door is open. If you're just another indie guy, the door isn't as open. It's
But I think in the case of Mark versus Tiger, and I didn't know Tiger, so I don't want to speak out of school, but I think, as far as I know, Mark was okay with everything he accomplished. If he never did anything more than what he did, he was okay with it. It didn't bother him that he wasn't, a big star at WCW or the WWE. I mean, he would like to have been that, but what he accomplished, he was very happy with. And he was at peace with all that stuff. Unfortunately, his heart valve was never formed correctly from when he was, born. And it just, literally, it's like you have a timer inside your body. It just says, I'm going to stop you at 44 years old, and I'm just gonna hit stop, and you're just going to die.
and also he was a very big guy, so I'm sure that put pressure on the heart.
Yeah. Although his grandfather died of the same thing,
Oh,
and he wasn't a big guy, and he in his mind thought he did have a bad heart valve through some other experiences he had in his life where he, felt kind of shaky and stuff. But there was nothing. I mean, literally, unless they replaced his heart, they wouldn't have been able to do anything with what he had. And unfortunately, they don't just hand out heart replacements for people, unless he had signs of it, and the only signs he really had was what killed him. And so and of course, he was in the ring. I always bring this up. He was in the ring when Misawa had died,
wow.
and when Misawa took that suplex and didn't get up from it. He was part of a tag match with all
Wow.
of that. So just like, yeah, that's you just really don't know when your number is going to come up, and nobody anticipated Misawa was going to die that way. So that's yet another. And then I still don't know why my friend Dana Lee died, and I had my friend Max Justice die earlier this year, and to have my friend Tony Jones die. It's you get a lot of reminders when their birthdays come up, when their death days come up, and sometimes when
I
you see
got a book
videos.
full of dead friends. Oh my
I know,
God.
I
Yeah,
know, I know. Maybe I'm glad you haven't added me to your book, so I can.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
maybe it gives me a
We
few.
don't want you in the next edition.
Exactly. So, gosh, I mean, we kind of just have this sort of open sandbox of a show to just talk about stuff.
This is like an hour. This is like an hour of therapy. I
Sure, I
haven't.
always look at it that
I
way.
haven't been.
Wrestling therapy.
Yeah. Sometimes online it's almost like therapy for me. I'll just vent about something. Like the Undertaker's wife saying she was a revolutionary force in women's wrestling. Can we just admit that in WWE it's all about nepotism and cronyism and who you marry and come on. I mean, you could have named 5 great matches that woman had. Shamel also, Booker T's, in good graces with them. What did Shamel do? You got people like Leilani Kai, who was never in the WWE Hall of Fame, who went up and down those roads wrestling hundreds of great matches
Yeah, why
a year.
isn't Leilani Kai in the Hall of Fame? She's one of my Facebook friends.
I guess
Politics.
out of sight, out of mind. It was a long time ago already, and she's not married to the Undertaker or Booker T.
or one of the Bella twins or Beth Phoenix or a variety of ladies that I don't think should be ahead of Leilani Kai. In the Hall of Fame.
Or Judy Martin, or many of the women that are still alive today that were far better wrestlers.
Velvet McIntyre, is she in the Hall of Fame? I don't think so.
I don't know. Jumping Bomb Angels should be in there.
I love the Jumping Bomb.
They had a good run in WWE. I saw them.
They never lost the tag titles. They won them and they just sort of, put the tag team titles on total hold for 35 years still. They brought him in back in the 2020s.
Are you picking us up a pair of $38,000 WrestleMania 42 tickets?
Sure, yes, and the chairs so that you can hit yourself. We can both hit each other over the head with the chairs till we see the money that we. Maybe what we can do is, I hit you with the chair, you hit me with the chair, and we sue the WWE for, supplying us with those things
chair.
that we can hit ourselves. Yes.
That's right.
That they didn't make the chair safe enough.
That's right. And there wasn't a message at the bottom of the chair not to hit each other over the head with it. They don't have that.
Right. Or we misheard them say, "Don't try this at home," and we said, "Do try this at home." Or we hit each other in the hotel.
That's right, which isn't at home. So
yes,
that's not on the disclaimer.
So why don't you throw out any movies that you've seen recently that you think the public should check out?
Yes, go see Brownsville Bred. It's an indie film. It's going to be hitting. It's in New York, extended run, indie film. Beautiful, from the heart. True story. Woman's father, she's a little girl in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and the father's a drug addict. She loves the guy, but he's a mess. And she eventually he breaks up with the mother, and he goes back to Puerto Rico, and she goes to visit him a couple years later. Very heart-wrenching film, beautiful film, great music. My friend Edwin Vasquez did the music. He did the Cape Man soundtrack on Broadway with Paul Simon, Mark Anthony, Ruben Blades. And that's the level of musician he is. And he's a close friend. In my book, Edwin played at my mother's unveiling at her tombstone. That's this is a close friend of mine, and I'm thrilled that he has this forum, this showcase now, because it's going to Miami, it's going to Puerto Rico in October, and 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. 100%. That's almost unheard of. Just everybody that sees this film, because I sat there, and it's so rare. People spontaneously applauded in the theater.
So is it going to have wide distribution, or is it just in New York?
I don't know. I'm hoping. I mean, that's great word of mouth, great reviews. It's packing them in the theaters where it's playing, but it's in a limited release, like an indie film. It's playing a theater here, a theater there. So you hope when the word of mouth really hits. And the other side of it is there's not a lot of films for Hispanic voices. This film, she's a Hispanic female filmmaker. There's not a lot of them, doing projects like this. They don't get the funding. They don't, this is a special film. It really is. And I hope people will support it. And eventually it'll be on DVD and
Or
everything
streaming.
else and streaming, I'm sure. But, again, seeing something in the theater is special because I was
But
sitting in a,
it may not make it out here. So if it,
yeah,
like it
it may or
streams,
may not. You don't know. You don't know. I
but if it
mean,
streams, I'll be able to see it. So
350 Days played theaters.
I went
Fathom.
to it in the
Yeah,
theater.
yeah, yeah. See,
I
I'm not
actually saw
lying.
it in the theater down the road from me. So
I'm not
it
lying.
was,
But here's the thing, as an indie filmmaker, it costs about 20 grand a week to get your film into a theater. And that doesn't mean you're going to sell 20 grand worth of tickets in a week. So it's risky. So a lot of things go direct. But if you play in theaters like Brownsville Bread, then you're eligible for more
rewards.
awards. Yeah. So I'm this woman, Elaine Del Valle is her name. I met her, and she she put 20 years of her life into this, and there it is, and it works, and it's
Wow.
great,
Wow.
and it's sort of like The Wrestler. We put 7 years.
Sure, we
350
see that
days.
with a
We
lot
put
of
six.
people's projects.
Yeah,
You
350
know,
days took 6 years.
and the ref didn't see it. It was a whole lot of effort. You
Yeah,
know,
so, if you're not swimming in money and you're doing half the battle with films is the funding, you know, finding a distributor. It's not just making the film. There's a lot involved. People don't realize it. There's such a wealth of content out there now. People are just spoiled. I mean, they can watch stuff 24/7, but the people making these films, it's another reason why with all the bootlegging, if something's like done on a $200 million budget, it's a little different than something done on a $500,000 budget, and people are bootlegging it. Every dollar counts when you're a small little indie film. So it is what it is. It's a very tough business. I'll tell you a wild story. I don't remember the woman's name, but my friend is a security guard, and he sees an actress that he likes, and she's just shopping. Like, they're human beings. She's shopping at this mall. And he says hi. Oh, I remember you in this film. And, and they chat a bit. And then he pulls up her IMDb, her International Movie Database, all her credits. And she hasn't worked in a couple of years. And now she has a day job. This is something people don't grasp also. Just because you're in a major film doesn't mean you're making a fortune. Just because you're on the production side of a major film, it doesn't mean you're making a fortune. Mickey Rourke didn't get rich from The Wrestler. Marissa Tomei didn't get rich from The Wrestler. Believe me, I know. I was at the funding meetings. So it's a tough business. And you're seeing more and more these actors are either doing, a zillion conventions hawking their autographs, or they have day jobs, or they're basically retired because film is also not conducive to women. You're in your 20s and 30s, you look great, but what happens when you hit your 50s and 60s? The roles aren't coming as often unless you're Meryl Streep and you have a marketable name. It's very tough. And
it's wrestling business is like that, rock and roll is like that a lot of times. It's just it is harder when you get older, and people don't see the youth anymore. For people to get excited about that, people want to get excited about the up and comers and the young acts, and of
I
course,
went
then
to
again
see
we.
I went to see Deep Purple last year, and the lead singer, his hand was shaking. He's in his 70s, but his voice was still there. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta pay the bills.
speaking of paying the bills, why don't you tell everyone about your book?
Yes, we're doing WrestleMania prices on the book.
35,000.
That's right, 38,000 per copy. You could go to
But
Amazon.
the thing is, you can integrate the book make it into a chair that you can then hit yourself
You
with.
could throw the book at the wrestlers. You don't even have to read it, but it's 38,000 a copy. You could pick it up on Amazon. I'm joking, of course. And anyway, support indie publishing, support indie film, support indie wrestling, support indie comics, support indie music.
Don't forget your grab bag.
We also have grab bags. We also have autographed pictures from the legends, very reasonable. Most of them are $15 a pop. Just message me, Facebook, Evan Ginsberg, or the book you could get on Amazon, and it's called Wrestling Rings, Blackboards, and Movie Sets. It's about my juggling 3 careers, like we were just saying: agent in wrestling, publicist in wrestling, etc., so on, filmmaker and teacher. And I'll tell you, speaking on that subject, my favorite book is Sandra Cisneros, The House on Mango Street. Beautiful, beautiful book. Short stories.
Mine is Snappy Answers to Stupid Questions by Al Jaffe.
Oh, I like Al Jaffe. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, what is she doing? Here's a woman that wrote this classic book that sold millions of copies. People don't understand. The author gets 10% of the book. If the book's $10, the woman's getting $1. Okay, so she's a college professor teaching writing. You follow what I'm saying? You can write
it's
a
not
class.
always the ticket to lifetime success.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you can write a classic book that actually sells, and you still need that steady income, the benefits, the pension, etc., so on. Life is not fair. You could do absolute schlock, and you're the Bella twins, and you're making crazy
Exactly.
money.
Or you can be our pal, Nikolai Volkov, or you can be, Nicole Bass,
Nikolai saved his money though. Nikolai did well.
Nikolai is better off, but Nicole Bass,
Nicole was struggling. I love
her.
Nicole.
Yeah, her health problems were so terrible.
Let me throw this out there before we wrap up. So one of the ex-WWE divas, I don't even remember her name, honestly, because to me they're almost interchangeable, a lot of them.
Yeah.
She's doing, what is it, OnlyFans? What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, and she's bragging, I'm making more money in a month than wrestlers are making in a year. Okay. So let me throw this out there without sounding like a prude or anything. Okay. So you're doing this, you're making great money. What happens when you're 40? What happens when you're 45? What happens when the money dwindles? What happens when your fame dwindles? I would tell this woman, go get a nursing degree, go get a teaching degree, a teaching license, and you can make 6 figures with benefits, with pension, with investments, and you could do it till you're 75 or whatnot, 65, 70, 75, and you'd make more money than you would,
Yeah, but Evan, you're capable of thinking far ahead, and there's plenty of people that don't think anything except for what they're going to be doing tomorrow, and what they don't. For them, the end of the week is like too much for them to think ahead for. So, if everybody thought ahead and thought the implications of their actions, this world would be a way better place, but it doesn't. And so, that's why, you have the cricket versus the ant stories, where the cricket plays in the sun all day, the ant is working hard, and then winter comes and the ant's fine and the cricket freezes to death. That's that's the age-old story.
There's plenty of broke porn queens out there because
it's true.
You can make a fortune of money, but you're buying that hot car, the hot clothes, the hot
It's
jewelry.
just like athletes, just like, wrestlers even, I mean, you say a lot of wrestlers don't waste their money on my money, wine, women, and song. However, there
Many
are
do.
people like Buff Bagwell who did spend it on that sort of stuff. And now that he doesn't have a leg, it's his pathway to trying to live a decent, normal life might never happen.
He'll be working a lot of conventions. I feel bad for him. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He just seemed misguided.
Yeah, and just made a lot of very poor choices. And now that he can't make a living being, attractive. I mean, this is the perfect thing that you're talking about with OnlyFans. I mean, she's great, but what if she gets in a car accident? What if she loses a leg like Buff Bagwell did? The guys aren't going to go so crazy over her if she's missing a limb, or an eye or something.
Unless that's their fetish. You know.
Well, you get a lot less of the subscribers that way. So yeah, I mean, think of what you're going to be like in 20 or 30 years. Because if you don't do that, society's not going to be there for you if all you have are looks, something, and you don't have even any money saved up after that. Things are going to be tough when you get older.
Slow
Anyway,
but steady wins the race.
that's what my dad's favorite quote was. Anyway, on that, we'll end the show. We've got some guests coming up in the next couple weeks, so it'll be fun. Not next week, but the next weeks after that. October is just going to be power packed with all sorts of great guests for people. So I urge everyone to come and stay in touch with the show, and we'll catch everybody next week. So long, everyone.